Hello and welcome to Vault Holocron. I'm Jonathan and today we will be discussing Lobot from The Empire Strikes Back. Lobot was a human cyborg from the planet Bespin, who we first saw in Cloud City with Lando. He didn't really play much of a role in the films, but has quite a lot of detail in canon, appearing in multiple comics and books. So today I've decided to cover Lobot. Lobot wasn't always a cyborg, signing up as an adult to work for the Empire, running battle calculations. Due to his job, he allowed the Empire to implant an AJ-6 cyborg construct into his brain, allowing him to work far greater and faster, although sacrificing some personality. Lobot later left the Empire though to join Lando as a smuggler on the Millennium Falcon. Earlier in his time with Lando, he also worked with Chanath Char, a bounty hunter who he ended up falling in love with. However, Lando, after a while, went separate ways with Char, and Lobot chose to stay with Lando rather than Char. At some point after this, Lando lost the Millennium Falcon to Han in a game of Sabacc. At one point after the Battle of Yavin, Lando and Lobot were in a large debt to a crime lord called Papa Tauren. To pay this debt off, Lando decided that he'd steal a trinket from Moff Saria. He did this in an unconventional way though, talking the Imperial Governor into giving the trinket to him so that he wouldn't have to steal it. After a successful mission, Lando met back up with Lobot at Tauren's cantina, where he shared the story of the theft. Lobot was very shocked by the story, remarking that the odds of Lando's strategy working was 1 in 1,000. His mechanical implants were why he could come up with a figure for this success rate. This scene actually reminds me of C-3PO telling Han the odds of manoeuvring through the asteroid field, and to me shows how his personality leaned towards the robot side of things. Anyway, back to the story. Lando assured Lobot that the trinket would be enough to pay off their debt, but he received the unfortunate news that Tauren only accepted it as 1/10 of their debt, with the addition of a huge job for them to complete. Lobot wasn't pleased with this result, wishing to fight Tauren, but Lando believed that they were still in a good position, telling Lobot that his cybernetics meant that he didn't need to fight, working from afar. After this, Lobot and Lando recruited the clone warriors Alaskin and Pavel, who were skilled in hand-to-hand combat, in case they needed to fight, and the Ugnaught Corin Purs, an antiques expert. Corin Purs had met Lando before in a previous job, where she lost an eye, and so when he entered, she pulled a blaster on him. However, Purs did agree to join Lando on the job in the end. Together, the group went to Sienna Fleet Systems orbital shipyard CC-24 in orbit over Castell, using stealth suits where they stole an Imperial pleasure craft which they thought was owned by an Imperial art collector. This ship was the Imperialis, a name you might recognise if you saw our Royal Guards video. Also, the Imperialis wasn't owned by just some Imperial art collector, but by Emperor Sheev Palpatine himself. Due to this, after the group flew out of the shipyard, they saw 3 Imperial-class Star Destroyers exit hyperspace near the Imperialis. Lobot was more concerned now, as the mission had become a lot more difficult than Lando had promised. The Star Destroyers dropped gravity-based mines onto the Imperialis, in an attempt to prevent it from entering hyperspace, but the ship had built-in protection which destroyed the mines. This is when the Star Destroyers used their tractor beams to bring in the ship. Lando got Lobot to upload the Imperialis' coordinates to his piloting computer so that he could maneuver between the Star Destroyers, which ended up locking onto each other. The Star Destroyers collided and Lando and the group zipped away at light speed. Lobot and Lando were then approached by Corin Purs, who told them that the yacht had a lot of treasure inside. Purs told them that there was one chamber though, which was well secured, and so Lobot volunteered himself to open it. As it opened, he was greeted by 2 royal guards, and was impaled through the chest by a false pike. Alexin and Pavel then attacked the guards while Lando went to help Lobot. Lobot was losing consciousness, and was fighting his implants from taking over. Lando and Pers rushed him to the medical bay on the ship, where they put Lobot into a Bacta tank. This is when Pers finally realised that this ship was Palpatine's, warning the group that they would be attacked. Lando then rushed back to Alexin and Pavel, who had successfully beat the guards. The group except Lobot then explored the central chamber, where they found many Sith artifacts, which were hugely expensive. Alexin then became possessed by one of the Sith helmets, attacking Pavel with a double-bladed lightsaber. Lando and Pers fled the scene, but against Pers' wishes, Lando refused to leave the ship due to Lobot still healing inside. They wouldn't have been able to use the escape pods anyway though, as the ship had actually been boarded by a bounty hunter, which had disabled the pods. Lando encountered this bounty hunter to find that it was none other than Chanav Char, who lowered her weapons when recognizing Lando. Char had been hired by the Empire to either kill everyone on board the Imperialis or destroy the ship. Char decided to let Lando and the group escape, but failed to put the escape pods online, ruling out that option of escape, but offered to let Lando and Pers fly out on her ship. However, she decided to stick with Lando's plan of not destroying the ship when hearing the news that Lobot was in the medical bay. Alexin and Pavel then approached the group and killed Pers, saying that she had been a victim. Chanav Char then went to dock her ship, the Scimitar, while Lando went to take Lobot from the Bacta tank. The ship had announced it would self-destruct, so Lando removed Lobot from the tank early. Lobot finally reunited with Char, but Char revealed that her droid pilot had fled, leaving them trapped. Lobot went to a computer interface where he attempted to disable the self-destruct, but he was not successful. He then had one option left, which was enabling the escape pods. This was a hard choice, as it would require him to stop fighting his implants. Lobot decided to turn on the pods, meaning that his implants took over his mind. Lando then offered Char to join them, but Char refused, so they departed once again at the escape pods. Lando told Lobot that he'd find a cure to bring Lobot back, and due to this a pre-recorded message played from Lobot. In this message, Lobot told Lando that he believed that he could find a cure, but that he wouldn't be disappointed if he couldn't. The message also told Lando that he had great power and that he should use it for good. At a later date, Lando and Lobot returned to Cloud City, where Lando was made Baron Administrator. He was contacted not long after the Battle of Hoth by Han Solo, who asked if he could provide shelter for a group of rebels. Lando, however, agreed with Vader to hand over Han to Boba Fett, and prevent the rebels from leaving. Around this time, Cloud City was visited by Jaxxon, an old friend of Lando who had come to have a meeting with him. When he got there, Lobot met with him, and Jaxxon found out that Lobot had misscheduled his meeting. Jaxxon then told Lobot of his connection to Lando, but Lobot told him that he didn't recognize him. However, Lobot eventually gave in, letting Jaxxon see Lando. Later, Lobot met Vader, Boba Fett and some Imperial troops at Cloud City, who froze Han in carbonite and captured the rebels. Displeased in his agreement being broken, Lando ordered Code Force 7. Lobot and the Bespin Wing Guard detained the Empire long enough for Lando and the rebels to escape, but Lobot was captured and Cloud City fell to the Empire. After the Battle of Endor, Cloud City was part of the Iron Blockade, where it was still controlled by the Empire and told that the Emperor's death was rebel propaganda. Lobot, who was still inside Cloud City, relayed messages to Lando and the New Republic. In attempts to fight back at one point, Lobot hired Kars Tal'Koria to capture Borg in Kar and take a code needed to access Adelhard's chamber. Together they managed to get to Adelhard, but he escaped. Cloud City did however get liberated by the New Republic at a later date. Around the time of the Battle of Jakku, Lobot joined Lando in wiping out the remaining Imperial holdouts on Cloud City. Together they went to the Bolo Tanga room and got Imperial troops inside to surrender. However, the sergeant didn't surrender and tried to kill Lando. Lando killed the sergeant first though, surviving the encounter. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of Lobot's story, and we hope to see you later at Vault Holocron.